Hello and welcome to Geordie Leather. In today's episode we're going to be covering the topic of storing leather and other similar materials. You might think, well, leather, stick it on the shelf somewhere, but no. Leather needs to be stored in certain conditions to maintain it properly. So we're going to cover that in a bit of detail, as well as other fabrics, canvases, for leather and other things like that. But for now, if you haven't already, please check out this month's, that's January 2021's competition. It's a giveaway of a £25 gift token. If you haven't already, please visit the website and check out the giveaways page. And also thank you to those that have already joined the competition, entered the competition, blah, blah, blah. Again, it's only open to subscribers, so if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, like the video, and then you can enter the competition free of charge. So let's move on. So leather, storing leather. Like I say, you may think just stick it on a shelf and use it when you want to, but not really, depending on the leather. So we'll first of all talk about veg-tan leather. So got some on my bench here, as you can see from the overhead cam. So basically, vegetable tan leather is very similar to your skin in so much that if you go out in the sun, you get a suntan. So the same thing applies with veg-tan leather. So you must keep it out of direct sunlight, otherwise it will get a suntan. And if you want to keep the natural pale colour, that's obviously not going to work. So the best way to store veg-tan leather is in a black bag. Now you can use a bin liner, which is very cheap, but I like to use these. This is what we call black lay flat tubing. It's basically a piece of polythene which has been formed into a tube shape. So it's a great way of storing things like veg-tan, protecting it from light. So I'm sure you already know, but when you store vegetable tan and most other leathers, you roll them inside out so that the grain side is on the inside and the flesh side is on the outside. So like I have here, first of all, roll up your leather into, not too tight, you don't want to put creases in there, but a loose roll like this, and then simply insert it into your airtight either lay flat tubing like I use, or a black bin liner. They don't last as long. It's good strong plastic, so I recommend lay flat tubing if you can get a hold of it. It's available from eBay, Amazon, most other online services, so I'll leave a link in the description where you can get a hold of some. But insert your veg-tan, and then just, once it's roughly centered, just fold in the ends of the tube, at both ends, and then you've got a nice airtight, sorry not airtight, light tight bag to keep your veg-tan nice and pale, unsunburnt. So again, storing leather once it's made safe like this, ideally you want to store it horizontally on a flat surface on a shelf, as long as it's flat and won't get a kink in it, otherwise that may cause problems when you come to use the leather in the future. You can't really stand this thing on its end very easily because it tends to fall over. So a flat surface, I store my veg-tan under my workbench, so it's kept in shade, protected by the plastic, and it's to hand when I want it. So that's veg-tan. Straightforward. So let's look at some other fabrics. Now, sticking with leather for the moment, you maybe seen me use this. This is a bit of sheepskin. Now, it tends to be very floppy, so you don't want to fold things like this because it will leave crease marks which will prove problems when you come to use it on future projects. So the best way of storing this sort of skin, pig skin, sheep skin, goat skin, that sort of thing, I find on a tube. So just take a postal tube. Again, you can get these from any stationery suppliers, eBay, Amazon, or if you go along to your local fabric shop, they may give you some tubes which they're going to chuck away anyway. So you just basically take your piece of skin and roll it onto the roll. Again, get into the habit of rolling things so the flesh side on the inside. So just put it in the centre of your roll and just keep it tight, avoid any wrinkles, and just spread out your weird shapes of leather as you roll it, and you'll find that it's a lot more compact and a lot more easy to store. Now you can either just stick elastic band around the tube to hold that in place, or you can make some of these. These are basically little straps which I make for holding leather onto tubes. It's basically a piece of either nylon or polypropylene webbing, and as you can see, I've sewn some hook and loop tape. The hook's on one side, and on the other side the loop, so that you can wrap that around your tube, and that keeps things from sliding off. So there you go. So with flexible materials like skins, animal skins, other than veg-tan, you can do that quite easily. So I do that with all of my small animal skins. So if you're buying other material, I use a lot of different materials, not just leather. We're called Geordie leather, but we do canvas, faux leather, all sorts. So here's a range of some of the materials I use quite frequently. This is some green canvas. Again, we use the string strap. As you can see, if you're buying canvas, any material in small quantities. I mean, if you're a trade user, you buy it by the roll, and it costs hundreds of pounds. But if you're a small hobbyist, like most of you are, you're probably going to buy material in metre lengths. Now, generally, most fabrics come in 1.5 metres. That's about 60 inches wide. So if you're buying a smaller piece, you can use a smaller tube. But generally, 1.5 metres is the average width for most fabrics, for leathers, canvases, cloth, fabric, whatever. So same principle. If you're buying it in small quantities, it will come folded. So as soon as you get it, unfold it and get it onto a tube as quick as you can. That'll remove a lot of the creasing naturally. But the best way to store tubes, if you haven't got a lot of space, is on their end. So again, I'm using little Velcro straps. So put that around, make sure I've got the right way, and just bring that round, and that keeps that nice and snug. So the best way to store small quantities of this is on the end, standing up. But what you'll tend to find is that the fabric will slide down the tube with gravity, and the bottom end will become crinkled. So what I do, if you can see this, let's get a close-up on the small camera, I make these little cardboard discs which I glue onto the bottom of the tube, which prevents the material sliding down. It keeps a nice square edge on the bottom. If you don't do that, it'll slide off and you get a very wrinkly edge to your material, which makes it difficult to work with. So I'll quickly show you how to make this little ring, but in general that's an excellent way of storing small quantities of a wide range of fabrics, materials on their end, so they won't get damaged. So let's just move this all out the way. I've got quite a small workshop here. It's only actually about 10 foot by 12 foot, so it's quite a small space. So this is how I store my tubes of material. So I got this longer one out to show you this is actually a trade size width. This is 1.5 meters. So obviously you need a longer tube if you're going to store it tube ways on. Does that make sense? Tube ways on, it means as it comes off the main roll, it's 1.5 meters wide, which is this width here. So I need to move this because I need to work over here on the press. So you get these out the way. This is only a fraction of my material. There's lots and lots of it. So we're going to make a tube. So let me find a tube. Of course, I've just put all the material on top of the tube I need next. So where did I put that? Oh, it's in front of me. So again, this is a standard 2-inch Postal tube. I wouldn't go anything narrower than 2 inches, but you may find if you get these free from a fabric shop, they could be bigger and thicker and heavier, but 2 inches is a good size, I find. So So what we're going to do is we're going to take some card, just some, I use mounting board, I use it for patterns and all sorts. It's good stiff board. I wouldn't recommend using corrugated cardboard because that will flop with time. You want a good stiff, does not be too thick. This is 1 mil, I think, 1.5 mil, as long as it's firm and fairly rigid. So all I'm going to do is cut a circle. In fact, I'll show you the end product. This is what we're going to make. This is just a card circle which is going to fit over the end of the tube. So you can use a compass, draw around a coffee jar, whatever you got to hand. That's roughly the right sort of size. Obviously the internal circle needs to be as close as possible to the diameter of the tube you're going to use. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to use a cutting die. This is a coaster cutting die. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the base of my press and put a piece of card on there. And I'm going to put the blade so I can see, because that, put that on there. I'm going to take it across the press. Now if you've got a proper die cutting press, I do have, but it's out of shot and I can't be bothered moving the camera. So I'm going to use my little arbor press which does the same job. So take it across your arbor press and just press around the perimeter of the blade until you're all the way through. Let's have a quick look. A little bit on the corner there, going through. Just do that. So as you can see, that's cut that out nicely. So that's the external shape circle. So I'm going to do an internal. It's a 2-inch tube, so it should be about a 50 mil circle cutter. So again, this is my little kit of circle cutters. I think the biggest one is 2 inches. You can just check that. And it goes on there, nice snug fit, so that's ideal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this, I'll zoom in slightly. But this, it doesn't have to be spot on, it's just a bit of cardboard. So in fact I'll put it on my cutting base first. Centered, so it's approximately in the center, so it forms a sort of a cardboard washer shape. And let's do the same again with press. Now if you're using a die that's bigger than the end of the ram, all I use is a piece of steel just to rest on top of the die, and that just distributes the load a bit more. So we just go around the edges until you hear that little crunch, and that tells you that it's cut through. In fact, it hasn't cut through, so a bit more. See, ideally, it's best to use a die cutter, but if you haven't got one, you haven't got one. So again, that's cut through nicely. Let's take out that, so it leaves us with a nice cardboard washer. So next step is just to take your cardboard tube. Now I'm going to use hot melt glue, but you can use any sort of glue if you've got to hand. Obviously the benefit of hot melt glue is that it sets basically within a few seconds. So I'm going to turn on my little hot melt glue gun, stick another stick of glue in, ready. Now that'll heat up in a few seconds. As you can see, it's coming out the end already. So we're going to take the tube, and I'll do it this way so you can see it on the close-up camera. So here's our tube. It's going to insert the cardboard washer, and I would say leave about maybe ½ inch sticking out. It's not important, just so it keeps it off the ground. In case the ground gets a bit wet, it'll protect your material. And then once your glue is at temperature, which this should be, just going to basically go around and put a bead of glue around there. Now where's my glue stick gone? It's running out. Should have loaded up the new stick before I started, shouldn't I? But never mind. So see, you've got a bit of working time with with just make sure it's straight before it gets too set, and then just continue. It doesn't have to look pretty because no one's going to see it. It's purely structural. See, it looks awful, but it doesn't matter. Again, before it sets completely, just try and make it even, and then that'll basically dry. Okay, so we've completed the tube. The next step is just to wrap your material on it. I will take a completed one, wrap it round, use the Velcro straps. I mean, you could make some little leather straps if you got some scraps, but Velcro is cheap enough. So I'll demonstrate with this one why this is useful. So we look at the fabric. I'll do this on purpose. Fabric has a tendency to slide with gravity down the pole, but as you can see, that little disc stops the end puckering and keeps it nice and straight, which is what we want. So there we go. That's how to store a variety of materials. Thanks for watching. If you haven't checked out Georgie Leather's website, please do so. It has the biggest range of tools, materials for the leather worker, probably on the internet. So check it out, grab some bargains. There's also, like I say, the giveaways, the competitions. So to do that, you must be a subscriber. So please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.